Is he? Do you see it? Is he videoing it yet? Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to July 6, 2022's CAC meeting. And I'd like to call it to order. And the first thing we'll do is we'll take a roll call.
So I see online we have Chelsea Ratner.
Present.
And Clark Henry. And in the room we have Steve Burkholder and acting chairman Ellen Daviero. Mm-hmm. Since we only have 6 members, we have 3. We're going to call it a quorum and do business.
Okay, great. So we have to get a second to start the meeting or no?
No.
That's good. Okay.
But for minutes, you do.
Yeah. So I just wanted to go over the minutes for June 8th, 2022. Did everyone have a chance to read them? And does anybody have any comments or questions or anything about that? We're all good? Yeah, I didn't see anything in them that needed. It was a short meeting, so it seemed like everything was in order. Okay. So can someone make a motion to approve the minutes?
Yep, motion.
And I will second it. Great. Okay, all in favor of the minutes?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Nope. Okay.
Nope.
All right, perfect. And then, all right, so I guess the next thing is the privilege of the floor. So I'll turn that over to you, Charles.
No, he can talk for Rivers Ledge Senior Building.
Okay.
I didn't receive any emails, and you said you didn't want to talk under privilege of the floor, right? You're just listening?
Yes.
Okay.
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 So, he's gonna, okay. I understand what you're saying now.
Yeah, he'll talk there.
Okay. All right. So, shall we go to the environmental assessment, then?
Yeah, 1850 Union Street. So I'll put it up on the screen. I apologize for springing this one on you guys. I was thinking it was just a site plan, but it is in fact a special use permit, and that does require automatically a oops, I shared the window. I'm sorry. Shared the wrong window. A environmental review by you guys. So I'll just do a quick overview. It's a existing church that had a daycare in it that was approved by the town board that went through the CAC probably about 5 years ago, and the daycare operated there without any complaints for I think 3 years. The former daycare was the Niskuna Cooperative Daycare that had been in the old town hall on Balltown Road.
Okay.
They had moved from there because they were having issues with the landlord to 1850 Union Street. It worked out great. We had a bunch of public hearings. The special use permit was granted. They were operating there happily, but I believe that during COVID, probably very similar to a lot of daycares, they had some staffing problems, and they shut down. Unfortunately, COVID having been such a long time, their special use permit actually expired because after the use stops, it doesn't, for a year, you can't start it up again without getting a whole new special use permit. So these guys have to go through the whole process, even though it was literally just done. They are a different company. They're called Capital Kids Care, where I think the old one was a maybe longer daycare. They do after school. So their hours are, Clark did a really good summary table here.
Yeah.
Their hours are 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. during the school year. And then they operate a summer camp from 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. During the week. And they're not proposing to change any of the space from the way that the other daycare was. This is similar to the way the other daycare was set up. The buses mostly drop the kids off after school. So the only cars that come in are parent pickup, which is more staggered. And the play area is in the back away from the cars. And the main floor where all the kids are is in the basement, where they have this plan here that you can see. So I know that I sprung it on you guys, but if you don't mind, you could ask me any questions. It's a pretty simple application. If we could do an EAF, we are trying to expedite their process because they were trying to go into a different site. You may actually even recognize the name. The first EAF that we did this year was for the same company. They were trying to go into Hillside Ave, but they ran into some problems with permitting on that building. They may still do like a satellite care at Hillside Ave,
Okay.
but they want this one to be their main one.
Okay.
Clark, did I miss anything?
No, I think that's good.
So our responsibility is just whether this space can be used or not.
For a special use permit.
It excludes everything on their ability to use it well,
Oh,
et cetera.
yes. That's
all
the New York State license.
Okay.
Yeah. So the reason that we look at it is because it's operating in an existing place of worship.
Yep.
So it's secondary, it's two uses on one parcel, which automatically triggers
Sure.
a special use permit.
Okay.
Although I think the reason that we do have that is because obviously the churches typically do not operate at the same time as the daycare. So you're making use of impervious surfaces and buildings in a complementary way. But you guys could, look at things like traffic or they're not changing anything external to the site, which is why I was thinking it didn't immediately trigger CAC for me.
Yeah.
Sure.
Traffic,
I mean, they have a
noise.
nice big parking lot.
Yeah.
They have a good back. I mean, I drive by this, so to me, I mean, that parking area is big, and you can get in and out of there, out of the the two main exits, and I mean, obviously, if you're going left, it's a little bit tougher, but even at rush hour, it's not that bad. So, seems pretty straightforward to me.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
Agreed.
I was just going to say if it's very similar to what it was before, I don't really see a problem with it unless they're like adding way more kids or if something's being like built there, but it seems really straightforward for this one.
Yeah, I think the kids are about the same. We could double check on that for you, but I think they're about the same. It can only fit so many kids.
Yeah.
And getting to Steve's point, that's a New York State licensing thing, so that goes by their square footage.
yeah, it looks like it's only summer that they have 50 to 70. It's after school, they have 45, and they have 4 classrooms at least. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 6, 7. They have lots of classrooms. So,
Yeah, and I personally know there's a need
Yeah.
for this. So.
Well, with the other one closing too, yeah. I've heard from a lot of people that there's a need, which may be why they'll open up the Hillside one once they can get that one up and running too. Yeah.
okay.
So, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? Yeah, no. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land?
No,
Especially because it was there before. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
no,
Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area?
no,
We don't have any of those. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
no.
It's kind of a minimal amount of cars compared to how many go on Union Street.
Yeah. And is there a sidewalk on that side?
Is there what?
Is there a sidewalk on that side?
Yeah, you can see it in the aerial.
Yeah,
Although it's probably hard for a lot of people to walk there because
it is. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's not.
even though
doesn't
there
go all
is
the
a
way-
sidewalk. Yeah, exactly. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy? No. Will the proposed action impact existing public-private water, wastewater? That's a double no. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
No,
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources? They're not making any exterior changes. Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for flooding or erosion? Again, there's no external changes proposed. And then will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
No.
And I feel like we could say that we know there's a recognized need for childcare.
Yes.
I don't, did you guys think that there's any need for screening or any kind of landscaping requirements? We didn't get any complaints when the other one was operating there, but
No, I don't think so, especially since there's only a couple of neighbors next to it, and it is a pretty big piece of parcel, in itself. So,
good use, good complementary use.
Right, and they even have that back place where they can play both on the pavement and in the grass. So that's nice.
So we would need a motion for a recommendation.
So I make a motion for a recommendation for a negative NASDAQ for the special use permit for the daycare at 1850 Union Street.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Any nays? Nope.
Thank you for doing that in such short notice, guys.
Oh,
I
no
appreciate
problem.
that.
No problem. Okay, so we'll move along to our discussion items, and that brings us to 2837 Aqueduct Road in the Rivers Ledge Senior Building.
So Chuck, you can share your screen or I can share whichever one you want.
Yeah, I'm remote right now, so if you could share, Laura, that'd be awesome.
Just tell me what you want to see.
Yeah, and so I guess what would the board like? Just a brief overview, Laura, of where we're at on the project and the story behind it.
Well, so at the last CIC meeting, I know I don't even think I gave you notice. They had concerns with the height of the building, and so they had sent you the recommendations. They wanted to see what a 2-story rendition would look like, or they wanted you to go back and see if you could reduce the height. They asked for green energy practices to be utilized, pesticide-free maintenance of the building, a path or walkway to connect all of the buildings, especially between the small commercial building and the large building, outdoor seating, and but they did appreciate the reduction in wetland impacts. So I think I know that you guys kind of decided to go ahead with the height as proposed, so it might be a good idea to go through what your thoughts were on that, and then they could ask you questions.
Yeah, so overall, long story of the project is the original master plan that was part of the PDD had a 100-unit outlook for a senior age-restricted complex. And throughout the course of time with the due diligence, conversations with Army Corps, and availability of wetland credits with the Wetland Trust and the bank, we only had the available credits to be able to do half of the property that was originally forecasted. And if you go back one slide, one photo, Laura, to the beginning, first one you had. So you can see the site plan that shows the wetland area off to the side right there. Yep. So this used to almost be 2 of these mirror image buildings. And, there was only the wetland credits to be able to do what's present right now on the site plan. To make the development economically feasible and, also bearing the cost of the price increases that had surfaced with COVID and gas pricing, et cetera, that had happened since the PDD. The 3rd story became a necessary product to be able to make the business pro forma work and even to be able to get financing. So, we already had been working with the planning board and in lieu of preparations for what would come with the zoning board on vertical height. Right now, we have 2 renditions of the building, one with a gabled roof, one without a gabled roof. The original PDD had requested trying to keep a rural residential look due to the corridor. To be able to keep a rural residential look and still make the project happen, the 3rd story is necessary the gabled roof is necessary to keep the rural residential architecture. And where we're at right now is that puts us over the height variance, or the height restriction for the code. So we really dislike the next photo, which would be within code of the building height restriction, but we believe it has a very commercial look. We also looked at other approaches with the planning board with doing mansard roofs that bring the roof line into the third story, just like, you know, the reason of why we added the third story with financials. A custom built roof design in the third story was running the project over budget and outside of the grasp of financing. So where we're at right now, when it comes to vertical height, is we have requested the zoning board to look, and I believe the planning board at the next planning board meeting would recommend us to the ZBA to be able to go for an area variance. What we did do, though, in lieu of this, is to kind of give an exercise for, you know, the CAC, the ZBA, and the planning board, was this cut section of the development. This gives some perspective of sight lines for both the traveling public on Aqueduct Road and the bike path. As you can see with canopy heights, you know, most of the building would be screened when coming up Aqueduct Road towards Schenectady due to the Forever Wild part of the project that would be all wetlands. And then from the sight lines of Aqueduct Road, the road's actually 4 foot higher than finished floor, which would be, you know, where you see the sidewalk and where folks would be walking at door entry of the building. That is actually, the road's 4 foot higher. So it would really be in lieu of closer to being in the building code height requirement. From the bike trail perspective, we've added screening trees in the buffer planning zone. And also there's a proposed 4 to 5 foot tall retaining wall. And those sight lines would also be blocked by those screening trees and the vertical height change from the bike path. So we've tried to do what we could to mitigate it with landscaping, conserving the trees that are existing there, and try to make it blend into the surroundings, both with architecture and by conserving some of the wildlife that's there. To the other CAC comment with green practices, just like our first 160 units in the first phase, we did receive NYSERDA tax credits and grant money because we did do an Energy Star complex. We actually just received our concurrence with NYSERDA just a couple weeks ago. And we intend on doing this building in the same fashion with all Energy Star appliances, you know, the door and window styles that create an Energy Star envelope, and insulation practices that would also provide an R value that supports the NYSERDA criteria.
You know, Chuck, the one thing which maybe you're already doing if you're Energy Star certified, but this building has to be built to the New York State stretch code. Did you guys know that?
Yes.
Okay.
What does that mean? Does anybody have any questions? So does that mean that, I know that you, so are you planning, well, thank you very much for coming. Thank you for showing us this. Do you, and for, you know, meeting New York State's energy, you know, NYSERDA's star rewards. Do you have any green energy that you're planning on incorporating? Are any of your parking spaces outside going to be covered? Solar panels, charging stations? Anything like that?
Yeah, so we don't have any, our covered parking the covered parking requirements actually being covered in an underground parking structure that you can see in the cut section.
Yeah.
And as you see there in the break and grade in the garage entrance, we always install electric car chargers at all our properties. Phase 1 has 6. I would imagine that this senior building would be in the lieu of 2 to 4, depending on the need. Usually we start out at a minimum of, like, on a property like this, 60 units, 2. And then if tenants request more, we add more. At our latest complex, Starbuck Island and Green Island, we did 2 outside, 2 inside. That way we can facilitate those people that also have underground parking as well. But yes, aside from that, we don't have solar panels proposed. We don't have any covered parking proposed, just because of the exponential cost of underground parking to begin with. And I believe depending on the tenant that we find on the commercial space in the detached pad site over there, if they have a need for electric charging, then we would also add it there. But if it's just a typical office building with no electric need, we wouldn't waste the use of a stall there.
So, Chuck, one of the other things we talked about was the connectivity between the 2 buildings that are kind of separated, which I don't know if I can bring it up, but what we talked about at the last meeting is that if you were going to walk between the senior center building and the commercial building, you would go down, I guess, to the bike path and then over. That was the thought there.
That's correct. And a lot of that, you could try to look, Brett and I, our civil engineer, had looked at connectivity along Aqueduct Road. But unfortunately, due to the wetlands being so close to the right of way, and then there's also a very extreme grade break that breaks from shoulder of road to the wetlands. A sidewalk profile to meet ADA requirements is actually impossible to build there without encroaching on the wetlands. So I think the best connectivity we can provide to those 2 different structures would be the bike trail. And then obviously we provided connectivity to our complex as well.
But I'm sorry, this is jogging my memory, and Alon can jump in here too. I think one of the things they identified though is that if you're walking from the bike path to the commercial building and that's the way that you're going to connect it all, it doesn't have a sidewalk. The commercial building doesn't have,
Okay.
you'd be walking on the road to get over to there, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and that's something that we can definitely add. Right now it's got rear access. We could probably add a sidewalk leader that wraps around to the driveway with a crosswalk that leads to the bike trail crossing.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, even if you just put it on the right side of this drawing down to the crosswalk that is the bike path, at least people are not walking in the road or the grass, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we can provide connectivity there.
So I don't know I don't know what the parameters are, but you can't do anything, between the 2 buildings that's through the wetlands, correct? You can't build any like boardwalks through there, those floating boardwalks that wider.
Yeah, you would still need more than a nationwide permit there. So I don't think we would get that from Army Corps. They were very strict on leaving that alone and preserving that section of the property.
Okay. I thought it might be nice to be able to walk through it. Okay.
A lot of it's forested. So I think of any type of walkway or something through there would involve tree cutting.
Okay.
And I just think it would end up not being permittable.
Okay.
Although, I'm just saying, there is this super cool cedar trail in Cape Cod that is all boardwalk. I mean, it doesn't have to be part of this project, but maybe someday, because you guys love your properties, you should think about making a little boardwalk trail in there. They really are cool.
Yeah, I've been. I was just. I was just on a couple out in the northwest.
They have boardwalks.
Well,
Yeah.
through,
Cape Cod's is the best. It's like the cedar trail or something. You walk for like a mile, and then there's like a mile of boardwalk inside.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so cool.
It's in the, I think I've been there, Laura, is in the like the marshland area, like up the back of
Yeah.
the coast, like
Yeah.
Sandwich.
Yeah.
So,
So
so the only other thing I'm looking at from the last time would be the outdoor seating space.
Yep. So the outdoor seating space, if we were to flip back to the what would be the left-hand corner of the actual senior building. So right now, we're still in design. We're marketing tenants for that space. The one thing that is kind of looked at right now is dependent on the user and the use of the outdoor seating, whether it's, a coffee shop, an ice cream parlor or something, was the original thoughts of Peter and myself, because it would kind of facilitate the use of the bike trail and also Aqueduct Park. Um, you know, we may be able to fit some outdoor seating actually at the corner of the building for a smaller user on what would be the front, or if the user needed more space in between the driveway entrance and the sidewalk that you see running down Rivers Run Drive. I did talk to Peter about this, Laura, and we could do a little patio area there as well, where people would grab their ice cream, their coffee, cross the crosswalk, and have a little patio area there with maybe a pavilion or, just some umbrella seating.
That might be worth doing anyway, because when we see multi-family apartment units, a lot of times we like to see outdoor recreation space, like picnic tables and stuff, just so that, because they don't have lawns and stuff like that, so there's a place that they can go outside and recreate. So that might be
Yep.
worth doing regardless of the tenant, if you can.
Okay. Yeah. And that's, I think, it's one of those things where I think it would be an awesome option to facilitate with the needs of a tenant. Outdoor dining with a lot of our restaurant coffee users is an important thing now. It's kind of making their business plan pandemic proof. But we'll definitely take a look at that and have that as part of our tenant focus when we're dealing with the end user.
So, can I just ask a quick question just about the parking underneath? So when you build the parking structure underneath the building, is it completely underneath, or do you have to, or do you take up space above ground as well?
No, it's completely underneath. Like what we typically do, you don't even notice it. So it'd be usually 1 foot footing, 14 foot to 12 foot frost wall or to foundation walls. There'd be a steel skeleton, and then you're building a conventional building above that on metal decking and concrete. So when you look at it from the road, no different than Laura, if you were to scan through the one cut section that I did for the vertical height. You'll see that the parking structure would be zeroed out to finish grade, and landscaping and everything else about the building would look standard. So there won't be any exposed foundation.
Yeah, and I was pulling up the landscaping. Just
A
to
lot
see.
of it.
Yeah, so this is the landscape screening that you're talking about to the bike path, right? Which is,
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's hooked right against the retaining wall.
I can't tell what species that is, but it's probably not arborvitae, right?
No, like I said, it's whatever I ended up telling you on phase 1, Laura, that's not, like, for lack of better terms, deer candy, and they get eaten up.
That's the problem.
We-
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. I forget what species that is, but a lot of like some of the evergreens we've had a lot of issues with where they're like dead from 4 foot up from the deer.
Oh, it does say. So it's a mixture of white fir, hinoki cypress, and Norway spruce. So that's kind of cool. That's up in this corner here.
What page?
Page. Page. What page is that?
This one.
Mhm.
Oh, planting schedule. Okay. So it's on page 30. So
Oh.
are all of these, Rose of Sharon, do we have anything in native?
Oh, red maple. Black gum. American sycamore.
Okay.
Peter loves those river birch lately, so I know we had a couple of those.
Yeah, they're pretty. I did skip one. Because the building's surrounded by wetlands, is it possible to do the pesticide-free maintenance of the grass so that the pesticides don't leach into the wetlands?
Absolutely. I don't think we use pesticides anyways. I can ask our facilities manager though.
You probably use grub.
Oh, Ellen thinks you probably use the grub.
You probably use grub and dandelion.
Okay.
If I
Yeah,
had
because
to guess.
Peter usually plants like we do all sod.
Yes.
So I know he's got like a fertilizer like treatment that they do just to keep everything aerated and looking nice. But I don't know if he uses pesticides. I'll ask though.
I mean, there is a definite way that you can do it. I mean, there are products. There's, neem, and there's other. I'm no specialist by any stretch of the means, but I do know that there is like 1 or 2 groups of people who have taken the course and can do pesticide free and keep it looking nice.
Okay.
Oftentimes, I mean, there was an article in the Gazette, and they were making it out to seem that in order to, if you were going to be pesticide free, that your yard was going to look awful. And we really just need to get away from this mindset that your yard's going to look awful if you don't use pesticides. It may look, it just takes, if you can grow grass and you can keep it longer, it works. But anyways. And
Yeah, I'll talk to. I don't usually handle those contracts,
Yeah.
but our facilities manager does, and I'll look into it for certain.
Yeah. All right. So, does anybody, have any questions? I have to say that, I still think that it's too tall. I think that that it's going to look really big over there. But I mean, you can move forward and see what the zoning board says.
Yeah, and what we hope is we're always transparent with our projects. To make a project work, this is the height that we needed to be at. We could make it shorter, but we don't feel like we're serving the community with a commercial look of that nature. And hopefully the community benefit with age restricted housing where Niskayuna doesn't have a lot of 55 plus apartments. Will benefit the visual impact that some may see. But.
Well, and then the only other thought I had on that is, I don't think you need to do it yet, but you don't really show limits of clearing on these plans, but I really think it's doubtful that you're going to be able to keep very much vegetation between this existing vegetation between this building and Aqueduct Road. So you may have to plant additional screenings along Aqueduct Road to help so that the building is broken up by, like, even if it's not a whole line, because that might look weird along Aqueduct Road, but maybe like around those deciduous trees, you do some of the buffering so that there's going to be pockets where you can't see the building and then pockets where you can.
Yeah. The conservation of the trees and the the ones that we saved were more so in the comment of, if you scroll out, Laura, a little bit, it'd be in the wetland area off to the right, which is obviously showing the commercial building up the road a little bit.
Yeah.
But then also we have the tree screening from the other side of the bike trail to the rest of the development in Alpos.
Right.
That's at the top of the hill of the pond.
That's
And then obviously we're not touching the tree screening on the other side of the National Grid easement.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I think if you actually, like, you look at the kind of the existing vegetation, like the force mains labeled on here, it's kind of light. I don't know if you can see it or not. And then there's the edge of the vegetation. When you put that parking lot in, it's unlikely that you're going to be able to retain any of the existing vegetation between the edge of Aqueduct Road and the edge of the parking lot that you're building.
Yeah.
I think it's very unlikely. So I'm
No,
just
yeah, that's all a lot of that's invasive Phragmites and stuff anyhow. It's all like it's all roadside wetland plantings. You're 100% right. There's not a lot of trees there. It's a lot of like scrub brush and Phragmites, and they would definitely be ripped out.
yeah, but so if this building's 41 feet high, you've really only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 trees in front of it.
Yeah.
So putting a little more screening of this building from Aqueduct Road, if you get the height variance, might help mitigate the view and keep it more rural looking if you've got some more trees, some more like clusters of evergreen at the front as well.
Yeah, and we can do that if you want some 365 plantings up front. You're not looking to screen the entire development, but you'd like some sporadically planted out front.
Yeah,
you're
I
saying?
feel like it would look weird to have the whole line the way you're doing for the bike path. I think the bike path line makes sense because there's a retaining wall and stuff there. So like that makes a lot of sense to me. But I think if this is a 41-foot building, you're going to need a little more than the 6 deciduous trees you have there. So if you did like, clusters of the evergreens, maybe around the deciduous trees or something, or in between, so that there's a little bit more like filtering of the height of the building to the people that live on Aqueduct Road, because there's houses and stuff across the street.
Yep. Absolutely. We can add some.
And the lighting, how is the lighting?
Oh, okay. And Ellen's asking. Well, you can ask him.
So the American sycamore, is that a deciduous or is that a?
Deciduous, big tree though. It's a good tree. Is that the one that they're proposing?
Yeah, Oh, my computer just crashed. Oh, where did it go? So I would just make sure that any of those trees that you mix evergreens in with the
Deciduous.
deciduous, because obviously in the fall. And then the lights on the outside, are they motion lights? Do they they go down? Do they go out onto what's their range?
Yeah, so we don't have any architectural lighting on the building right now. We just have our code lighting at all the man doors and any overhead canopies, which would be downward facing towards the adjacent grade.
Yeah, because lighting is a sensitive issue in this area, especially with the residences across the street.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't believe, if we go to the renderings, I don't believe we have any architectural lighting on the building. Yeah, it looks like it's just canopy lighting, so they'd be recessed cans over canopies.
Do you think there's parking lot lights? Like the
We would definitely have to have some parking lot lights for liability, but I would imagine we would mitigate those, Laura, the same way as we did with phase 1 with the Alpos folks, with maintaining a very short height, maybe 13 feet, and they would be downward facing so that there's no vertical light pollution or anything. And they'd be photo cell light controlled, where they'd only turn on at night. But to your point, if we add some extra trees out front, that would also kind of block a lot of that. And there's also other things that we can look into. I've done public road projects before where you can actually get shades that kind of keep the light filtered more towards our structure and less towards the other the other side of the street. We
Yeah,
could
you
look
can,
into that.
you can shield them. It might be useful to just talk to your engineer and see where he would recommend putting the light poles, and then see if he can add shielding, and that might be where you put the evergreens,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
so that they're not shining into the neighbors.
Because it might not necessarily even be the neighbors that are on the other side of the Aqueduct Road. It's going to be the people across the river. That's where, because then this building is above all the other, this building sits above the others, apartments or condos.
Yeah.
And so that's, so for, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to be we're working on another cut section with HCP, our architect, for the planning board. The planning board asked for another cut section that was from the perspective of Alpause. I should have it next week, and I can surface it to Laura and Clark to share with you folks. But the Alpause folks should be blocked by the tree screening at the top of the pond at phase 1. I don't know if you could show that with your cursor, Laura. There's
It
there's
might
tree-
be on the landscaping plan. Let me see. Yeah, it's here.
yeah,
This.
those were new ones added for the fitness center, but there's existing growth there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so make sure you don't accidentally take any of those trees down, because there is
No.
existing vegetation that's, 20, 40 feet tall, but
Yeah, because you're not going to replicate that.
yeah, you're not gonna be able to replicate that.
No, and that will be part of that next cut section that we're running for the planning board that we could share with the CAC as well.
And do you have these apartments that you're renting out, are they 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom? Are they,
So that's a good question. So that's another reason why this project is very tight with financial cost is what we've learned at our other senior complexes is seniors desire a 2-bedroom layout. A lot of seniors that we learned from Green Island that moved into our building, we did a higher concentration of 1-bedrooms in Green Island. And what we found is they weren't renting quickly, and we didn't understand why, because we thought 1-bedrooms are easier to maintain. But a lot of seniors like to sleep in separate rooms because of sleeping devices or snoring or, just the space, or one likes the fan on, one doesn't. We've heard everything imaginable through our leasing managers. So we did a bigger concentration of, I think it's 2/3 2-bedrooms, 1/3 1-bedrooms. And what that does to a financial pro forma is 2-bedrooms are obviously more space, less return than a 1-bedroom apartment. So it's just ran it was another negative impact to the financial outlook just for seniors and age restricted.
and do we have, is there a price point for the apartments?
We have not worked that up yet. We have a ballpark right now, but we're working with our property management right now through negotiations with Spectrum, certain amenities to zero in on that cost and publicize it. Maybe in a month or so, I'd have something that I could share with the board.
Nothing ever is. Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions that they'd like to ask? I feel like I started having. All right, is that it? So, is there anything else I should be asking that I'm not asking? Okay. So thank you very much for taking the time to come and see us and to make all the, and answer all of our questions. It looks like you have, thought a lot of these things through, and we'll just see what happens there with the third story there.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, and I appreciate everybody's time, and we'll try to do what's best for the community and everything, and at whatever direction the ZBA gives us. So
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that is the last of our right? Let me
Yeah,
just see.
discussion.
That's our last of our discussion items. Did anybody have anything that they wanted to before I was going to go into the reports? Oh, just in time. So we're going to do reports. So why don't while Shook is getting settled, why don't we I'll start with pesticide outreach, since that is something that I'm involved in. So I signed up for this Saturday's farmers market. So I will be there with my little table and my little signs, my little pesticide signs, encouraging people to sign up. And if anybody wants to come over and keep me company, they're more than welcome to. I think that we need to continue to push our community to see beyond pesticides and all the dangers that they cause to our environment. And that it is possible to have a green yard and to not use pesticides and for it to look normal. So, and that there are also professionals that will come and do it as well. So we'll continue that. I saw, I guess the LOMO biodiversity initiatives update. So I don't know where. Well, they stopped mowing the cap, right? And
Roy said that he saw bobolinks there.
yeah.
Mhm.
So so I think that part is going good, and their plans are just to mow it at the end of the season, right? Is that
Yeah.
their plan.
And the highway guys keep forgetting to pick up the signs, but they did pick them up yesterday. I
Okay.
finally sent them away with them.
Okay.
So at least they have them in their possession now, and now I'll just keep harassing them to put them up because they're actually not mowing where we told them not to mow.
Right.
But people may not know why.
Yeah,
So we want to put the nice signs up so people can know why.
Yeah. So I was over there. So I just a couple, the flowers that we did transfer from the Feltz farm are still there. They're getting a little buried within the.
Yeah,
within
I was
the
going to bring
things.
mulch over there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
or something.
I wasn't really sure what we should be doing. So I didn't want them to mow over them at the end of the season. I wasn't really sure how that worked. But
Well, I think you can. I think you can mow perennials at the end of the season, and they're okay. But it has to be very late,
okay.
like October.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't have that big of a green thumb. So okay. And do you want to do Climate Smart Communities program?
Sure. The only other thing is that we need to check, which I think you emailed me and I forgot to do, was to make sure that when we put those signs up, that it links to the right spot on the website. Right? Because I think you said, Laura, it doesn't. So I just
Yes.
made myself a note. So we'll
Okay.
check the website.
Okay.
You and I can work on that.
All right. Sorry about that. Yeah.
That was just my brain from the last time we talked.
Okay.
Okay. So for Climate Smart Communities program update, I was just talking to Ellen. So we received the 5,000 grant from NYSERDA and we're working on the composting day. We got to choose which composting bins we want. And then I think I talked to the farmer's market lady and she's more than happy to have us do it at the same time there's a farmer's market. The idea is it might bring some people to the farmer's market, as first time customers, but also people who are going to the farmer's market might be good consumers of free compost bins.
Okay.
So
So are these compost bin? Okay. So we have to find a compost bin that we think people will
use. And a couple things, I know the town board is supportive of this project, but they don't want the compost bins to be a nuisance, which generally speaking they're not, but if you use them completely incorrectly, they might be. So we want to find ones that can be turned, easily so that they're properly aerated and don't smell. And then
So I've owned a couple of different compost bins. I don't know if does anybody else compost?
Mhm.
So do you have a spinny one? Or do you have a stacker?
I have a stacker. You have a
Well-
spin, Steve?
Sorry?
You have a spinning one?
Ours is a big wooden box in
Yeah.
the backyard.
That's a stacker.
With the
Yeah.
lid.
Yeah.
You just open it up and chuck it in.
Close it.
So I would maybe we can compare notes because I've had some spinny ones and if they get too heavy and you spin them, sometimes they do pop open.
True.
So, but mine is, I would say 10 years, at least 10 years old. So maybe they've improved since 10 years ago. So
Do you like your spinny one?
Yeah, I mean, for the space that I have, if I had more space, I might go the other way.
Yeah, because the yards in Old Niskayuna are obviously much smaller than
yeah.
the yards that were built later. So maybe we could even have two types, like the compact ones for small yards and then a stacking one for the larger yards or something. So we have $5,000. NYSERDA approved everything. We just gotta put together a committee and get it going. Climate Smart Communities Task Force is helping with that.
Okay.
I know that we also have a lot of good composters on the CAC, so you guys are welcome to help. And then the other thing is tomorrow night we're having a Q&A for people who want to do community solar, and this is another thing that we're doing for the Climate Smart Communities program. So anybody who's interested in attending can come. You aren't eligible if you already have solar panels on your house, though, and that may be true of a lot of people who are listening to a CAC meeting. But if you're like me and you didn't want to take down any trees, so your roof wasn't eligible for actually having solar panels, it's a really good way to enroll in solar energy without taking trees down in your property. But
Laura, I had a quick question on the compost issue.
uh-huh.
I'm always talking about not leaving behind the people who live in apartments.
Mhm.
Those who have like no yard at all.
Mhm.
Like, is there any scope for like doing worm composting in a box for the apartment people, or like doing an info session or something like that?
I mean, there's always scope. If you
Okay.
can figure it out and we can fit it in the budget, we will do
Okay.
it.
We used to do it when we lived in an apartment.
Mhm.
So the other thing that I would also say is that I always found that the best way to get people to compost is that when they're composting in their house is if they can, if whatever they're using on their counter doesn't smell or doesn't bring any bugs, you're more likely to get people to continue to compost. So
Oh, so maybe we should
the metal containers with the lids that have the
Carbon.
carbon in them, those are the best ones, and they're the foolproof ones. Like, say maybe you send a kid out to dump it and they come back with only half the ceramic container because the Christmas gift was a ceramic
Mhm.
that was going to look nice on top of the counter. So yeah.
So maybe it's a really good point. You're completely right about that. You can have the world's greatest compost bin, but if you're not collecting them in your kitchen, if you're not collecting it in your kitchen,
Yeah.
you don't use it as much.
Yeah, and I would say from having gone on vacation and the child that was in charge of throwing out the compost before we left on vacation maybe forgot.
That would never happen.
And yeah, but it was fine.
Mhm.
It was fine. So
So Ashok, another thing to think about though is it's pretty, I would say, on the sort of extreme spectrum side to be a apartment composter, like in your own apartment. Not that it can't be done, but you're not going to reach. The more education you do, the more people you could get to do it. But it might be easier for people if they were interested in composting in an apartment building to do things like the kitchen containers, and then get the building maintenance people to have a compost bin outside that they could bring it to. Either way, like if you're all about it and you know how to make the apartment stuff work, you can bring those things and we can teach people
Yeah.
But we might be able to get more if we can actually get the apartment building itself to have a bin,
Okay.
because then you're not worrying about it being in your apartment.
Okay. All right. Those are my thoughts on it.
Yeah. So the community solar, if we got 10 residents to sign up for community solar, we'll get another $5,000 grant from NYSERDA for another project. So
one on.
in addition to the composting one.
Oh. Okay.
So I mean, if the composting one goes like super well and we run out of bins, maybe we could do another one, or we could do like light bulbs or something. But I think that we're good because Niskuna people do love solar, and we already got at least 10 people. So I submitted for that grant already. So theoretically, we might be getting another
So
5,000.
the 10 people are new 10 people, or can they be already community solar?
No, new. Which is like if you enroll, it tells you how much greenhouse gases you're offsetting by enrolling, and it's a substantial amount, like per year or whatever.
We are enrolled.
You're already enrolled, yeah.
So I just have maybe you don't know this, or I guess my biggest question is what's the difference between signing up for this and signing up for my own solar panel that is out in a field somewhere?
Well, it's the same. Although I was talking to somebody from Albany who said that at one point you were able to actually like buy solar panels in a field. But that can be a little problematic because I know that the ones that he had bought were from Monolith, and Monolith has gone bankrupt, and now it's hard to get the panels to be maintained.
Okay.
So it's, yeah. So this is more like leasing space on
Okay. Okay.
although you're not paying for it. The New York State provides this program to people. It's essentially any of the ancillary costs are being covered by New York State, and you just get to get credit for the solar panels on your bill, and it ends up giving you a discount. I mean, it's not like a massive amount. It's like up to 10%. So if your electricity is like $100 a month, it's like $10 off your bill.
Okay.
But like
I
over
looked at that
time,
and I was just trying to figure out. Like, because I actually thought we had signed up for it, and I went to look at our bill when I saw this, and I was like, "Hey, wait a minute! I signed up for solar, and I guess I didn't go all the way through with it." So,
oh, one of the steps you do have to finalize is you actually have to send them a bill. So they don't take any credit card information from you. You don't pay them anything. But
have to sign up with your national grid.
You
Yes,
do have to
yes.
send them a national grid bill, though,
Okay,
because
yes.
that's how they figure out how to.
I think that was the problem, and on my last one, because I think I was all. I think that's what I forgot.
It was really
Anyways.
hard for me, because I'm paperless. I had to
Yes.
like go to the National Grid website, remember my password, which took multiple attempts,
Yes, no,
download the bill, attach it to the email. It's not. I mean,
I know it's not
on
hard,
a
but it
busy
does-
day, it's
it
pretty
takes-
hard for me.
And there is community solar is the government program, and then there are like 10 million companies
right.
that
Do it.
that do it. You got to shop around.
Yeah.
Well,
it was
except
hard.
right now you want to do these two because you get $200 for enrolling.
So that's what I'm just going to do. I'm
Yeah.
just going to do this one. Okay. All right.
I'm good.
All right. So if anybody can come and support that tomorrow night, that would be great. So that leads us to the natural resources inventory,
Okay.
which is what we had a whole bunch of stuff sent to us. Or do you want to take that over?
Sure. So Jim has sent all the reports, which I have sent to the group. Clark was able to provide some feedback, which Jim has incorporated, and the revised versions are available now. I will take one final look, and then they will be finalized. Did anybody else have any comments on the PDF files and the Word documents that I sent to the group?
So the only thing that I want was that you had mentioned that the sighting for the Bobolink was 2021, and there's been a 2022 sighting for a Bobolink. So I
Okay.
thought we should include that.
Okay.
But other than that, I thought everything, not being a particular expert on this, but I thought it all looked really good. I would be very interested in how they would create those links between Niskayuna and the last one, the Woodlawn. Is it Woodlawn?
Yes. Stanford Park.
The Stanford Park, and then the other, to connect those, and then the one up by, and then to create a trail through up by the pool.
Yeah,
That seems really fun
Yeah.
and interesting.
yeah. I've been having some, informal conversations with town residents. I spoke to them about the community center forest and the possibility of having a hiking trail there. There's a lot of people are excited about it.
Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of people that walk their animals that Leishkill is getting its booty kicked over there. There are, we're in it at least twice a week.
Hmm.
And, people go in there every single day, and take their dogs. So it gets a lot of use.
Okay.
And I know that other residents are looking for other places just to,
Mm-hmm.
take their dogs and.
Yeah, there's actually already some kind of primitive trail already existing in the community center forest.
Okay.
It's not like when we went there, it was not all bushwhacking.
Okay.
You could walk around, although a properly maintained trail would also be useful.
So the only comment that I had is like each individual report is like amazing. I probably wouldn't really change anything on it. Although if we can somehow get higher quality maps, I'm happy to help with that. But
Quality maps.
well, I mean, I think just in the process of changing them into an emailable PDF,
Mm-hmm.
they like if you zoom in on them, they're a little pixelated.
Okay.
Jim's originals probably aren't.
Mm-hmm.
So like the final plan, maybe we should have him upload it to the Google file so that we
Okay.
don't lose any of the resolution on the maps.
Okay.
And then we could put it on the website because this is
Okay.
all emailing files. He
Yeah.
probably downsizes them in order to email.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to help with that.
Okay.
But the only other thing I was thinking of is they're kind of 4 separate little pieces.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be nice to have like a front page with some key summaries to kind of make it an actual mini NRI. Like right now there's 4
Reports.
there's 4 reports.
Yeah.
But like I would sort of like to see an executive summary or something,
Okay.
like an abstract that says, here's what we did, here are our goals, here's like 5 highlights, and
Okay.
attached are all of the, assessments.
Okay.
Because that would kind of pull them all together.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, like if you can pull the highlights out of all of those pages into a 2-page executive summary, it's probably what the town board would be able to work off of.
Okay.
And that would be my recommendation if we could do that. And then I think we should bring it to the town board for approval
Okay.
in
That's a really good suggestion because when I was reading it, I was like, this is a lot. Like, I was like, oh, but it's kind of repeating, that the goals and then, and I was like, and the types of trees and shrubs and the birds and stuff like that. But there was variance in, in between each one in each section. But yeah,
because it's important to have the details for each
right
of the 4. Like
Yeah.
that's critical to an NRI. But I think for outreach to make it a cohesive plan, you would put it all together with like an executive summary.
Yeah,
of
we
it.
can have an
Yeah.
executive summary, a table of contents, and then like the full report.
Yeah, and then you can in that summary you can highlight a couple things that are cool, like big takeaway recommendation for a trail at community center, like Blatnick Park needs X, like you know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I understand correctly, there are no issues with the report themselves, but they need to be condensed into a coherent whole with an executive summary and some sauce.
Yeah, and it can have, a title page.
Yeah,
A mini NRI.
Yeah.
2022.
Yeah, I can certainly work with Jim to get it done. I think it should be doable certainly by the end of July. So
Okay,
can
so
we
then
like,
adoption in August.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I really like the feedback on that, on the water source too, and on that pond, and the overgrowth, and how to mitigate, the geese, and being in there too. Because there's another, we have another pond out. I don't know if it was part of your walkthrough, but back behind where the, in Blatnick Park, where they collect the molt, all the grass clippings. There's a water, and that's really, really super green, and I don't know
It
if
gets very weird colors.
it gets very weird colors.
That's this one down here, this little guy.
Yeah. And every time I go by, I always think that it's a super fun site. Like it's like I'm like, oh, and I don't know if it's from like all the chemicals from people's lawns and they're throwing, they're mowing and throwing it and it all gets leached into there, or if it's just because there's just so much nitrogen, and I don't know the correct balance of grass to thing, but that was the only thing. So I really appreciated that part of it. So
Okay. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Clark for reading the reports and providing some nice feedback.
Thanks, HR.
yeah, he had some really nice comments too. I saw that. I read them. I just didn't have any comments to make because I sent over my head.
I mean, I like them. I think it's exactly what we were going for. If we package them together and present them to the town board, I do think that they'll adopt them, and it will be a good way to leverage more funding going forward. I feel as though it was very successful, even though I missed the walkthrough. Because my Girl Scouts were selling cookies, which isn't really a great reason.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Do we cover everything? I think we kind of covered everything.
Oh, one point I forgot to add on the NRI project. I have signed up for Saturday slot at the Niskayuna Town Farmers Market, Saturday, July 23rd.
You have July 23rd?
So you can bring copies of this
Yeah.
and talk to people about it. And
Yeah.
then also that's really good timing because it's going to be probably right before the town board meeting. So you could
Okay.
encourage them to send support and stuff.
So
Okay.
I'm going this Saturday. So if you have anything that you want me to take, I mean, I can, take some of these with me
This Saturday.
this Saturday, but I
Okay.
could print, tomorrow's Friday, maybe, do you mind if I just print this out and bring it?
Sure.
We could just have copies of each one at the table so people could look
Yeah,
at
I
the
would like
maps
want
and
them to
stuff.
be like different,
Just stapled each different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
mhm.
that they could just, yeah. So maybe,
Just tell them that, it's preliminary and it's not the final version.
yeah, we can put, what do you put on the top of it?
Draft.
Draft.
Mhm.
We can put draft on the top of it so that it,
Do you need any help, Ellen? I'm actually available this Saturday.
if you want to come over, I'll be there.
Sure.
Love the company.
Sure. I'll bring my kids.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. All right. Does anybody else have any questions or comments or going once, going twice? Oh. Okay. So I think what we need is a motion to adjourn the meeting for July 6th, 2022. Me?
Motion?
Anybody want to second that emotion? Second the motion. All right. So meeting is adjourned. Is that it? All right. Have a
Thanks,
good
guys.
month and talk to you soon.
Thanks, Clark. Thanks, Chelsea.
Bye-bye.
Thank you guys. Have a good night.
You too.